seated, turn around, introduce yourself to somebody new, welcome them to the journey, high five them, handshake.
Good morning. We are so glad that you guys decided to spend this absolutely gorgeous Easter morning with us here at the Journey. Everybody, when you came in this morning, you had a card in your seat. So this card may not seem like much, but there's a few things on here I want you to fill out for us. Fill this out. For every completed card you do, you get a completed card. You'll take it to the table outside, and they will give you a ticket to get you a free snowball. Yay! And believe me, Pastor Andy likes them. My fella really liked his snowball, and the children, y'all, they love theirs. And don't worry, because your children, if you've checked them into any of our children's departments, they will actually have a ticket in their bag of candy for them to exchange to get a snowball as well. Again, thank you for coming. We are excited that you're here. You also would have gotten a Get Connected sheet when you came in today, and there's a couple of things on here I'm going to highlight. The first thing is our Get Connected luncheon. So maybe today is your first time here. Maybe you don't have a church home. Maybe you've been here a couple of times and you're thinking about, well, I might like to hang around here for a little while. We want to provide you with an opportunity to come and get to know Pastor Andy, Pastor Terry, and the other staff. We just want you to hear the vision that God has put in their heart and come spend some time together so we can get to know one another. There's a sign-up sheet for that, the Get Connected Connection Center is the Get Connected Luncheon. So if you just sign up so we know who's going to be in attendance that day. You could also even sign up on our church app. So I just want to let you know there's several ways that you can sign up if you just want to think about it today. But the opportunity's there for you. We just want to know you're coming. Also, thank you for those of you that give. Your giving makes it happen. Your giving provides opportunity for us to go out and love on our community. No matter what it is we're doing, it doesn't happen without someone giving. So I just want to say thank you. And there are 4 different ways you can give. You can give while you're here on Sunday morning. You can give through the mail. You can do our new text to give, which is really cool. I like that because I tend to forget my checkbook on Sunday morning because you're running around trying to get everything done. And the text to give, I think, provides an opportunity for those like me that might be a little crazy on Sunday morning. Or you can always give online as well. But I just want to remind you, thank you for giving. It makes a difference. It's about changing a life. The ushers are going to come and serve you now.
My name is Stephanie Blanchard. I'm in a small group here at church. The leader is Joe Henson. We talk about the sermons every week. We go more into depth with the sermons. I love my group. It's kind of like doing life together. Some of the things that you're going through today, people have been through that. Um, and it just, they can coach you through it, tell what worked for them, and it might work for you. Just sharing your life with them. I would really encourage people to become part of the Journey group. Like I said, it's like they're your family, and sometimes people don't have people to talk to and depend on to keep you accountable. No other way to describe it. It's just like it's your family, and they're there for you. You can count on them. What's said in small groups stays in small group. They're trustworthy. They're real people with real problems. You know, people don't come to church because they're perfect. love my journey group.
Yeah. Give her a hand. Thank you for that story, Miss Stephanie, and just the power of life change by being connected to others. There's power in relationship, whether we want to believe it or not. There's something about relationship that makes a difference in being connected to other people. Jesus didn't create us and put us on this earth to do life on our own. He wants to do life with other people. Because what happens is when we really do life with other people, we build trust. What happens in our small groups that we call journey groups, we love on each other, we care for each other, we build each other up. We really try to put into practice what Jesus tells us in the New Testament to do all these one another's together. You can't do a one another by yourself. You need other people to do it. And journey group, we don't just have small groups kind of attached to the church. We are a church of small groups. That means it's the heartbeat of our church. You can learn, you can change in your life in this big setting, but real life change happens in the context of a small group. I believe that. Where does that concept come from? In the book of Acts, you read that. It says they met in the temple court, they met in church, big church, and they met from house to house. They had small groups. They got together. You call it what you want to call it, but it's building relationships. And I can tell you, it makes a difference in people's lives. I know that's a big step for some people, but we want to encourage you. Whether you come regularly to this church or not, that's not the issue. The issue is I want to be connected to some other people. I want to see my life change. I want to help other people because just like she said, we all go through struggles. That's the teaching we've been in the last few weeks. We all go through struggles. Why not struggle together and win together and have victory together? In Jesus' name, instead of feeling like you're by yourself. Too many people feel like they're going through life by themselves. Take the risk, take the chance to trust somebody else. Give it a shot. We do small groups 3 different times a year. We've taken a break for a few weeks. We're starting new groups next week, so you can start in from the get-go and be a part of a group that can really produce life change and develop some relationships. Some of you ain't got no friends and you want a friend. Come meet a friend. It's a really cool group. She mentioned sermon-based. We have a couple of sermon-based groups where you actually take what we talk about on Sunday morning, you go a little farther, you ask some questions, you talk, you ask questions, you get questions asked of you, you dialogue with each other a little bit, and you grow that way. We've got a group for our college age, our 20-somethings. That's chronological age, by the way. That's not what you think your age is. So if you're in your 20s or your college age, that's called our 421 group. And I've seen such a growth in the ones that have been some fruit from those folks who've been in that 421 group. We've got a group for our men that meets every other Monday night. We've got a group for financial peace. We've offered financial peace multiple times over the last several years, and I don't have a hard number, but I dare say people that have attended financial peace here, again, not just folks from the church, in the community, we want people to take part in this, probably upwards of $500,000, $500,000 of debt paid off as a result of going through this program and learning habits, learning how to budget, learning how to manage our finances. There's a cost involved. It costs $100. But if you'll commit to all 9 weeks, I think Miss Melissa Godwin's in here. She's facilitating that one. I think she's in here. Yeah, she's right over there, kind of sticking her hand up like this. I'll pin, she's right there. Yeah, there she is. And she has a terrific job. But I can tell you, if you're there for each week, we believe enough in it, we'll give you half of your money back because you're going to more than pay that off in debt and recoup that when you follow Dave Ramsey's course, Financial Peace. It's worth your while, but you need to get signed up and you need to get connected. Did I miss you? There's a grow class on Tuesdays where you can build a foundation for your faith. All of us, whether we're new in our faith, whether we've been a Christian for years and years and years, we all need a foundation. And that's one of our next steps. We believe in taking next steps here, moving forward, progressing in our faith, because we're all on this journey somewhere, aren't we? And we want to move everybody toward becoming more like Christ. That's the goal. That's the destination. We think it's heaven. It is eventually. But we want, while we're alive on this earth, to become more and more like Christ. So grow is a way. It's connect is kind of like our step one. Grow is like our step two. We have serve, which is our step three. Next steps that you can take. Water baptism. There's all kind of next steps that you can take. But I encourage you, if you want a foundation for your faith, sign up for Grow. And we have one for our students as well. Yes, our students meet on Sunday night. But we're going to have a small group for them, a new small group for them on Wednesday nights. Miss Carrie Wallen's going to lead that along with Jordan Page, her daughter, who's a junior in high school, and they're going to lead our students through a small group as well. So I don't want to spend so much time, but I do, because it's important that you get connected. You can stop by the Connection Center, get one of these sheets, tear off the back sheet, turn this one in, which tells us what group you're going to be in. Keep this for your reminder. I don't know about you, I need reminders. And it's good if it's on paper. Or, hey, if you hadn't downloaded the app, download the Journey app on your phone, because I know some of y'all are obsessed with our Get Connected, a Hope Center. We are partnering with Hope Center Ministries because we want to bring to North Carolina, we want to bring to this community, this area, hope. Hope for people who are addicted, who are trapped in their addiction, and it's got a hold on them and a control on them. And we're going to partner with Hope Centers. We are partnering with Hope Centers to bring a home here, to bring help, to bring recovery, to bring freedom. It is a discipleship program. It's going to make a difference. Man, we got problems and issues in our society. We want to help. We want to be a part of making a difference in somebody's life. And you can partner with us. This is not the Journey's Hope Center. It is Hope Center's ministry, and we are trying to be a catalyst to get that started. We need your support. We need other churches' support. We need business leader support. We need all the support we can get. Everything goes to Hope Ministries so that we can bring hope to people who are struggling with addictions. I need to put that in there because that's so important. And I believe somebody needs to hear that this morning, because you want to be a big partner and be a part of that. So get connected, be a partner, get in a small group, and they're going to start next week. And speaking of next week, we're starting a new teaching called I Choose. I Choose. Why is that important? Because we all make choices, don't we? Some are good, some are bad. But who are we today? We are the person we are. Why? Because of choices and decisions we've made to this point, right? And who will we become? Who will be tomorrow and the next day? And pretty much we'll become the person we are based on the decisions and choices we make today. So we're going to talk about how we can be more intentional in making better choices. Choosing this over this and this over that. So that we can be more the person God created us and made us to be. But today, as we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the very fact, the resurrection is a big word for the fact that Jesus conquered death. He rose from the dead. He told us he would do it. He went to the cross. He died to pay the price for our sin. But on the third day, just like he said, he rose from the dead. So he's alive. He's well. That means if he can conquer death, through his power, through him, we can conquer anything, any struggle, any doubt, any fear, any addiction, anything we have going on in our life, not on our own, but with the power of Jesus, the power of the Holy Spirit. So what have we been doing in this teaching? We've been looking at some different questions that Jesus asked. See, a lot of times we have questions. I have questions. And we ask them of Jesus. But many times when you read the Bible, when you read throughout the New Testament, when Jesus had conversation with people, he asked questions. He asked a lot of questions. So when you have a real honest question, what do you get out of that? You get truth. And so what we're doing is taking 4 specific questions. That's what we've been doing the last few weeks, looking at these 4 questions that Jesus asked so that we can find help and healing from the struggles that we're going through. The first question we looked at, week 1, was a question Jesus asked the disciples. They were in the middle of a storm. out in the Sea of Galilee. It wasn't just any ordinary storm. It wasn't even like the storm we had on Friday. It was far worse. It was the big one, Elizabeth, right? Anybody know Fred Sanford? Yeah, it was a big one. And Jesus is asleep. I mean, go figure. Because he wasn't worried. He wasn't afraid. The disciples are frantic, and they wake him up, and his question of them, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? 2 weeks ago, we looked at the question Jesus asked a couple of guys. They were blind. They couldn't see physically. You see, today, we think we have to see physically to believe. They had heard about Jesus. They knew what he had done. They'd heard about all his miracles. Somehow they knew, if I can get to him, if I can find where he's at, maybe, just maybe, he can heal me and I can see. And he comes by them. This is what was so cool about this story. It's cool, and we might laugh looking back, but it wasn't cool for them at the time. But they're crying out, Son of God, have mercy on us. And Jesus just walks right on by them. Because in life, it's exactly how we feel many times, that Jesus just walks on by. He don't care. But they believed enough that they followed him. They couldn't see physically, but spiritually they could enough that they followed him inside, wherever he went inside. And he asked a question of them, do you believe I'm able to do this? Do you believe I'm able? Absolutely. And then last week, we looked at a question that Jesus asked a man who had been an invalid for 38 years. 38 years in the condition that he had. He was stuck. But he was believing in a pool of water to bring him healing. We believe in so many other things that can bring us healing or help us in the struggle we're going through. And Jesus looked at him and said, do you want to get well? And I added a word in there, not to add or take away from God's word, but for emphasis. Do you really want to get well? Because when we've had a struggle or condition for so long, many times we just accept it. Many times we'd answer that question, yeah, I want to get well, but do you really, 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 really want to get well? It's got to be inside. I got to want it. Today we're going to look at a question that so many people struggle with today. Our world is full of this. Our lives are full of this. It's the question Jesus asked, why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? And the good news for some of you, I believe it's a very small portion of people, you're okay with that because you don't have any doubts. I don't know about that. I think we all have them, but some people don't have a problem with doubt. But the vast majority of people, it's not that simple. So many people struggle with doubt. They'll say things like, I believe, I want to believe, I'm just a little skeptical. I'm not quite sure about this thing. I want to believe, but I need some questions answered first. I want to believe, but I need to see some things. I need to see it before I believe it. People even get to the point that they question the fact, is Christianity really for real? Is this Jesus really true? Story about Jesus and the life of Jesus. Why? Doubts come in all shapes and sizes. We all have them. They're big, they're small, they're in between. And there are people, it's grown, the number of people have grown that just doubt the fact that God even exists. God doesn't exist. Agnostics or even atheists that doesn't exist, or I just don't believe in God. There are people who say, I believe there's a higher power. I believe there's a higher power in our world today, but they don't believe that Jesus could really be personally involved in our lives. There are folks who doubt that God answers prayer because they've prayed, they've tried praying. And because he didn't answer the way they wanted him to answer, how they wanted him to answer, they just say, well, he's not there, he doesn't care, he's not paying attention, or he doesn't have the power to do it. Some people even doubt that God would love them or forgive them because of what they've done, because of their past, because of their actions. Still, others would say, I don't want to be a Christian because I've been around Christians, people who say they're Christian and they're so fake and they're so hypocritical. So doubts, guys, come in all shapes and sizes. And if you hadn't been around church very much, I just want to clue you in on something. I don't know if you know this or not, but church people can be pretty hateful sometimes. They can be pretty hateful. You know, we're compared to sheep in the Bible. Sheep aren't very smart animals. They're dumb animals. They are. And they bite. They have teeth. And they'll bite. Sheep bite sometimes. There's a problem that I have in the church world today, because there's so many in our church world would say, if you have spiritual doubts, then you don't really have faith. If you have spiritual doubts, then you don't really have a relationship with Jesus. You're really not in our club, our little church club, which is a bunch of religion anyway, and Jesus didn't care for religious people. So I beg to differ with that argument. I would say the opposite of that unless you push through some honest doubts in your life, you may never experience the depth of faith you could have if you didn't have those doubts. I think that's in your notes. And it's there because it's important to understand. Unless you push through some honest doubts, you may never experience the depth of faith you could have if you didn't have those doubts. I would argue for many people, real doubt, honest doubt, is the beginning of real sincere faith, trust. And we're going to talk about that today, about looking at a guy that was labeled a doubter in the Bible. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Oh, wow. Y'all are pretty sharp. This is the third crowd, and y'all the first one, you knew it. Thomas. Poor old Thomas. You know how many verses are in the Bible about Thomas? That everybody calls him Doubting Thomas. You know how many verses are in the Bible about Thomas? How many disciples were there? Good answer. How many verses are in the Bible about Thomas? 12. 12 lousy, stinking verses. Yet he's labeled the rest of his life, he's branded Doubting Thomas. Everybody calls him Doubting Thomas. I'm going to tell you what's cool about Thomas. It's who he becomes. Proves that even the biggest doubter can one day be a person who has the strongest faith. Doubt to faith. That's what we're talking about today. If you have your Bible, Luke chapter 24, verses 36 to 39. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to kind of camp out in John chapter 20. You have Luke's account, Luke's version. John's a little nicer to Thomas. And we're going to look at John's account as well. This is their account, how they look at it. Luke chapter 24, verse 36 to 39. Jesus had just risen from the dead. That's why we celebrate Easter. He's conquered death, conquered sin, conquered everything that we can go through in our life. He promised before he went to the cross, he told his disciples, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to die. I'm going to be resurrected on 3 days. I'm going to appear to other people. He appeared to a couple of guys on this road to Emmaus. That's where we are in Luke's account. He appeared to disciples. He appeared to 70. He appeared to over 500. He appeared to a bunch of people. If you were in a court of law and you had one witness, would that be enough to prove you guilty? It might be. What if you had 2 witnesses? What if you had 500 witnesses? I think that's pretty clear. You did it. A lot of witnesses, a lot of eyewitnesses. So he's on this road to Emmaus, these 2 guys, and this is where we pick up. It says, while the disciples were talking about what had happened, what had just happened, Jesus stood among them, and he said to them, peace be with you. They were terrified, and they thought they were seeing a ghost. Now, why was that? Jesus died, right? They're his disciple. They saw him die. He said, it is finished, the telestai. They saw him be put in a tomb, and the stone rolled in front. He was dead, all the way dead. It would be just like my mom who died 14 years ago. I was there. I held her hand as she took her last breath. I've helped pretty much officiate the funeral. I saw them lower her into the ground. Mom was all the way dead. What am I trying to say? If Mom showed up today, I'd mess my pants. I'm telling you, I'd probably faint. This is exactly what the disciples are going through. They knew Jesus was dead, all the way dead. But somehow he appears out of nowhere, and they think he's a ghost. So he asked them a question. Here's the question. Why are you afraid? Why do you have doubts? Did you forget so quickly all the miracles? Did you forget just several days ago, I told you this was going to happen. I told you I had to go to the cross. You didn't want me to go. I really didn't want to go, but it's the plan. I had to go to the cross. I had to be beaten. I had to be tortured. I had to die. But I also said I would rise from the dead. When Jesus makes a promise, he fulfills his promises. He's always going to come through on his promises. He's like, man, I told you guys. How soon you forget. Look at my hand. Look at my feet, he said. See that it's really me. Touch me. See, we just think it's something that's got to be tangible. He appeared. He said, touch me. See for yourself. It is really me. And what's interesting is, guess who wasn't there when all this was happening? Thomas. Ding, ding, you got it right. You get a free Pelican snowball if you turn your card in after service. And they're good, by the way, I'm telling you. And those who've been fasting and praying, and that's something you fasted, have at it. Eat 10 or 12 if you want to. It's all for it, man. So Thomas wasn't there. How do I know Thomas wasn't there? If you look at John's account, John chapter 20, I told you we'd go there. Let's look at John's account, verse 24 to 28. It says, now Thomas, also known as Didymus. I just stick with Thomas, but I guess this is his nickname. If you want to call him T-Daddy for short, maybe he's a rapper. I don't know. But he's one of the 12. He's one of the 12 disciples. Was not with the disciples when Jesus came. What does that mean? Thomas won't in church. And when you're not in church, you miss some stuff. What do you miss? What did he miss? He missed the presence of Jesus. He missed the power of Jesus. He missed the proof of Jesus that he'd risen from the dead. He missed of Jesus the words, peace be still. When we miss church, we miss a lot of stuff. So the disciples told him, we've seen the Lord. We were at church, but you won't, Thomas. We've seen him. But he said to them, Thomas said to him, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, he's got an honest doubt here, and put my hand in his side, I will not believe. One of the big problems in American churches today is we just somehow assume that we're Christians. I'll bank on my spouse's faith. Man, she got enough faith for 10 people, so I'm good. Mama's faith, grandma's faith, you know, somebody else that we love and care about, their faith. And we think for some reason that because I'm not something else, because I'm not Muslim, because I'm not an atheist, because I'm not whatever, I just must be a Christian like it's by default. But it's not. I got to have my own personal relationship, my own personal faith, because what happens is life will happen. Something will happen in life that'll shake this little bit of faith that I got, and then I start questioning God. Not questioning my faith, questioning God. Do I really have a faith? Do I really believe? Or is it my parents' faith or my wife's faith or somebody else's faith? Is Jesus really the only way to God? Does Jesus really exist? And if he does, the fact that he rose from the dead, is that really true? And we're not going to spend the time talking. That's a whole sermon series within itself. But I'll tell you this, if it's your first or second time, that's your gift today. When you turn your card, you're going to get a gift, and it's a book called The Case for Easter, and it'll explain all that. You know what it was written by? Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel used to be a confessed atheist, and he tried to prove Christianity wrong. He was an attorney, man. He was a legal analyst, and he was trying to prove it wrong. If anybody could prove it wrong, he could do it, but he couldn't. And so it's going to help answer a bunch of your questions. I would even say if we got enough book and you want one and you're not a first or second time guest, you can have one because it'll help you dissect some of this stuff. It'll help you see that Jesus is alive. The resurrection happened and he conquered death. And he was eyewitnesses to him rising from the dead. And that's going to give you victory. That's going to help you in your walk. But we don't need to miss what the disciples claimed. They claimed that God loved us so much that He became one of us. He became human flesh in the person of Jesus Christ, born of a virgin, Mary. That's why we celebrate Christmas, right? When He was born, Jesus' birth, which means He didn't inherit the sin nature you and I inherit when we're born of mama in the natural. We inherit a sin nature. We're inclined to do what's wrong until somebody teaches us what's right. Mamas and daddies, that's why we pop behind from time to time, because they're going the wrong way and they need to learn what's right, because we have inside of us a sin nature. Jesus was born of a virgin, which means He didn't inherit the sin nature we inherit. He inherited the divine nature of a heavenly Father, which means He could live on life as a human being and go to the cross and be sin for you and for me and pay the price, the ultimate sacrifice for the sin and the shame that we have. That's why we don't call it religion. That's why we call it relationship. And we have a personal relationship with somebody who didn't just stay on a cross, who didn't just stay in a tomb, but who rose on the third day, who conquered death, which means He can conquer anything that you go through in your life, any struggle, anything. But He claimed He didn't stay dead, along with other eyewitnesses, that on the third day the stone was rolled away. And He wasn't there. He rose from the dead just like He said He would. And if all that's true, guys, if all that's true, it demands a response. And the only reasonable response that I can have in my puny little brain and what I think about, the only reasonable response when I think about the fact somebody gave their life for me, is to live my life for them. You know, in our world today, in our culture, somebody does something for us, somebody gives us something, and what's our response? What do I owe you? What can I give you in return? Nothing, I just want to do it for you. What if somebody gave their life for you? I don't know about you. This is how I process that. Jesus gave His life. Jesus was tortured. Jesus went to the cross for me. Not because He did something wrong, not because He was a criminal, because He loved me. And when I see that, man, I'm indebted. I'm indebted to Him for life. I want to do everything I can. Do I get it right? No. I don't get it right all the time. But I feel like I owe Him my life. I'm going to live. That's my response. People say, well, you can't have faith if you doubt. I would say you can't have real faith unless you press through some honest, sincere doubts. That's what Thomas is saying. That's where Thomas is. Thomas is saying, man, I want to believe. I just need a little bit more. For some of you, watching online, here live, for some of you, you just want a little bit more. I want to believe. I just need a little bit more. That's exactly what Jesus did for Thomas. Look at verse 26. A week later, His disciples are in the house again, and Thomas was with them. John's account, Thomas is in church now. Thomas decided to come to church on Easter. What a great thing. And though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them. Did you catch that? The doors are locked. If your door's locked, how are you going to get in? Beat the door down, knock a window out, whatever. The door's locked. In other words, can't nobody get up in here. We're silent. We're hiding. The doors are locked. But the locked door didn't keep Him out. Just like the stone didn't keep Him in the tomb. Why? He's Jesus. And not only does He have the power to walk through walls, and not only does He have the power to walk out of a tomb, He has the power to help you walk out of and overcome your addiction and your struggle and your doubt and your fear and whatever you're going through. It says the doors were locked. They didn't let Him in. He just came in. I don't know how He got in. He just got in and He looked at him and He said, peace be with you. Verse 27. He's in there. All the disciples are in there. But it says He said to Thomas. It didn't say He said to all the disciples because they were all sitting around. It says that He said to Thomas. What that tells me is Jesus cares about the one who doubts and who wants to believe. He cared about it. And he said, put your finger here. See my hand. Reach out your hand. Put it into my side. And then what did he say? Stop doubting and believe. Stop doubting and believe. Jesus gave Thomas exactly what he needed to believe. And I believe for you, many of you, this Easter, presence of God is going to give you what you need to believe, just like he did for Thomas. Jesus did for Thomas, just like he did for me many, many years ago. He said to Thomas, put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand, put it in my side. Stop doubting and believe. Now look at this, verse 28. Thomas said, my Lord and my God. What did he do? He believed and he made it personal. It won't mama's faith now. It won't somebody else's faith now. It won't grandma's faith. It's Thomas's faith. He believed and he made it personal. But he wasn't just believing in Jesus. He believed Jesus. And there's a difference. See, the devil and demons believe in Jesus. They know the power that he had. They know the power that can change a life. That's why so many of us struggle with this thing of a relationship with Jesus and living a Christian life, because we try Jesus, and somewhere along the way, almost immediately, because the battle's on, I can tell you, when you say I do to Jesus, I want a relationship with you, it's on. The battle's on. Why? Because the devil knows who believes in Jesus exactly what Jesus can do for you and how he can give you victory, how he can change your life, and he don't want that to happen. And so we struggle with that. But it ain't about trying Jesus, guys. It's about trusting him. No matter what happens. Trust in him that he's real. Thomas believed Jesus. He made it personal. That's what happened to me as a young person. And this through the growth process over the years. It's what I believe will happen to many of you today. That somehow something that's bigger than us, the actual presence of Jesus, is going to move in your heart. And you're going to stop doubting and believe. I used a phrase last week that I believe so strongly. A moment in the presence of Jesus can change everything. This moment right now in the presence of Jesus can change everything. And I think about people who were eyewitnesses to Jesus when he rose from the dead. And I hear their stories. Just like I heard Stephanie's story this morning. And I cry. I've heard it 3 times and I cried. Why? It builds my faith. It builds my faith. Because I know what can happen in that context of a small group. But I know even more so, it's not that small group. It's Jesus doing it. It's Jesus doing it. Change in our lives. And these people that are eyewitnesses that share this eyewitness account, it builds my faith. I think of Simon Peter. He said to Jesus, I'll never deny you. I'm always going to be your man. I'm one of your 12. I'm one of your circle of 3. I'm your 3 best friends. I'm 3 of your favorites. One of your 3 favorites. I'll never deny you. And what Jesus said, you'll deny me 3 times. What did Peter do? You're exactly right. Ding, ding, you get a pelican too. He denied him 3 times. You know, Jesus isn't here your friend. Don't you follow him? No, I don't know him. I don't know him from Adam. I really don't. I don't know him at all. That's somebody else, the other Peter. That's not me. The other guy denied him 3 times. Then after the resurrection, Jesus appears to him and he said, Peter, do you love me? Yeah, Jesus, I love you. Feed my sheep. Asked him a second time, Peter, do you love me? Yeah. Yeah, Jesus, I love you. Feed my sheep. Asked him a 3rd time, and Peter's getting a little frustrated now. I can sense the frustration. Do you love me? Yes. Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep. Why did he do it 3 times? How many times did Peter deny him? 3 times. How many times did Jesus ask you, do you love him? 3 times. He was reinstating him. He was forgiving him. And that so transformed Peter's life. And on the day of Pentecost, he preached the first ever sermon recorded in Scripture. And 3,000 people 3,000 people surrendered their lives to Jesus. That's how transformed he was. And people would say, if you don't deny your faith, we're going to kill you. He said, never again. Never again. And they crucified him upside down. The same Jesus that Peter denied is the same Jesus Peter was willing to die for. Think about the Apostle Paul. His name wasn't always Paul. It used to be Saul. And Saul hated Christians. Saul hated Jesus. There are people today who hate Jesus. They hate Christians. They'll give their life to kill them. That's what Saul was doing. He persecuted. He killed Christians. And then one day, he's meandering down the road to Damascus. And pow, he has a come to Jesus meeting. Takes him to his knees. I bet you've never had a come to Jesus meeting like this one. He was blinded physically for 3 days. That's some power right there. I believe just personally in those 3 days, God unveiled all the things he was going to do. Paul's one of the greatest missionaries, wrote a ton of books in the Bible, a bunch of books in the Bible, but his life was so transformed and so changed by Jesus that he went around preaching, for to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I win either way, I'm going to live for him while I got oxygen, while I'm breathing. But when I die, hey, that's a gain too. I win that too, because I get to spend forever in eternity with him. Paul, because they asked him, renounce your faith, deny your faith, deny Jesus. It's I refuse to do that. I won't deny my Lord. And they beheaded him. They killed him. They cut his head off. The one who once hated Christians, the one who once hated Jesus, was willing to die for Jesus. I don't know about you. That builds my faith. Then I think of my homeboy Thomas, my man Thomas, labeled Doubting Thomas. 12 lousy verses, Doubting Thomas. Thomas was a great person of faith. See, doubt isn't the end of faith. I believe real doubt is the beginning of real faith. And once Thomas got what he needed, Jesus gave him exactly what he needed. Once he got what he needed, he went farther than any other disciple. He went all the way to India, farther than any other disciple, because he was so changed and so transformed. He said, these are people that need to hear about Jesus. They need to know him. They need to put their trust in him. They need to have a relationship with him, a personal relationship, just like I have with him. And when they said, well, you must deny your faith, you must renounce your faith, or we're going to kill you, he said, I'll never renounce my faith in what? It was personal, my Lord and my God. I'll never renounce my faith. And they drove a spear through his body. And they killed him. The Jesus that Thomas doubted, the same Jesus he was willing to die for. All these men, so many others, were willing to die for Jesus. Why? They believed. Because they believed, not just in their head, it got down in their heart. See, a lot of people are going to miss heaven by 18 inches. It's in their head, but it ain't in their heart. They believe, and because they believe, because if you believe in something, you'll do whatever you can, they live for it. And because they lived for him, they were willing to die for it. My question today, do you believe enough to live for it? And I know that's not an easy question for a lot of people. We all have questions and we all have doubts. I got questions. I got doubts. This is what I've learned over the years. Experience will teach you a lot. A lot of you in here have some experience because you got the gray hair or the bald head. You got experience. I call that wisdom. But experience has taught me when I press into who Jesus is, even though I got questions, even though I got doubts, when I press into who Jesus is, when I get to know him, how do I get to know him? Through his word, the Bible. The Bible's a revelation of who Jesus is. If I want to get to know him, that's my first source. That's why I need to read the Bible every day. That's why I need to apply the Bible to my life. That's why I need to pray the Bible. It's why I need to hang out with some others in small group and learn and grow together. That's how I get to know Jesus. When I press into who Jesus is, he reveals himself to me. I've learned this. He reveals himself to me in ways that move me from my doubts to faith. And I doubt and I question, why did this happen? What's going on? God, are you really there? And rather than just questioning, being mad and doubting God, I press through that doubt. I press through to who Jesus is. And he turns my doubt into faith in such a way that I realize the tomb is empty. Jesus is alive, which means he's real, which means he loves me, which means he has the power in my life to conquer any struggle, anything that I'm going through, if I let him. I just have to trust him, no matter what. And Simon Peter and Paul and Thomas and so many others, including myself, didn't start out that way. We don't start out with this just dynamic, awesome faith. It's a process over time. They didn't start out that way, but what they learned, just like I've learned, just like many of you have learned, through the ups and downs of life, through the questions and the doubts and the fears, the same Jesus that we would question, we would doubt, will become the same Jesus we're willing to give our lives for. My question today, do you believe enough to live for him? Would you stand with me? And we're going to make some decisions today. I'm going to do things a little bit differently as the band is coming. This is what's going to happen today. A lot of times I'll ask you some questions. I'll ask you to respond to them by raising a hand. Sometimes I don't even ask you to do that. Today's a little different. I want to ask you today, in just a moment, I'll let you know when to do that. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you, let's speak to 3 different groups of people. And I'm going to ask you, if Jesus has moved in your heart today, that you would move for him. And that you would move out of your seat and you would move to the front. Why do I got to do that, man? I don't want to walk to no front. There are people who've been in churches before, and if you went to the front, that meant something was wrong with you. I got news for you. There's something wrong with all of us. Ain't nothing wrong with coming to the front of a church. What that symbolizes, guys, is if God's moved in your heart, you need to move for him. Too often we hear a message or we hear something and it moves us and we're like, oh, that's good. We don't do anything about it. That just is a step that you can take to say, this moves me. This is just something I need to do. I want to speak to 3 groups of people, and I'm going to ask you to move at the proper time as the band is singing. I want to put you in groups, A, B, and C, okay? I'm going to speak to group A first. That means you're already, A for already, you're already a believer. You already have a relationship with Jesus. You already know him. You've made it personal, but you struggle with some doubts. Still got some questions. But you want to be able to press through those doubts and those questions where it's solid faith. Not that you don't ever have doubts and questions, but he'll solidify your faith. You want to grow in your faith. If that's you today, you're already a believer. In just a moment, I want you to come to the front. I want you to pick up one of these nails and cards. Not a real nail. If you had some damage Friday night, this ain't going to fix your fence or your house. It ain't a real nail. Unless you get violent and use it, it shouldn't hurt anybody. But I want you to pick up one of these. A little card is there because it tells you what the nail's all about. Let it be a reminder of what Jesus has done for you, the price that he's paid. I want you to keep it in your pocket. Actually, I had a better idea this morning during the first service. Attach it to your cell phone, because some of y'all are addicted to your phone. You need to be free of that addiction. Attach it to your phone, because you got it with you all the time, and you'll feel it, and you'll touch it, and you'll see it. Let it be a reminder. Jesus wants you to grow in your faith. It's okay to have a doubt. Okay to have a question. But that's going to remind you can press through that doubt and that question and know him even better. Strengthen your faith. That's A. Group B, That stands for believe. I mean, maybe I haven't been believing, but I want to believe. I want to believe today. Maybe I did a long time ago. Maybe I prayed a prayer and I said, I'm a Christian, but I ain't really lived for Jesus. Or maybe something happened in my life that shattered my faith and I walked away from God. Maybe you're mad at God. People get mad at God and they blame Him. Maybe you've never prayed or made Jesus Lord of your life. You're the B group. And I want you to respond this morning by coming forward and picking up one of these nails as well. As a reminder of the fact that Jesus died for you. But He didn't stay in a tomb. He rose from the dead. Which means you can overcome any doubt, any fear, any struggle, anything that you're dealing with in your life. You can truly believe. Not just believe in your head, believe your heart. But not only that, I want you to pick up one of these books, a Begin book. Because a lot of people make a declaration of faith and they're like, all right, so what do I do now? It's like a baby being born and you just toss the baby to the side and say, you're on your own? That's what happens a lot of times. This book is going to help you take some next steps. Inside of it are some next steps you can take here at the journey. This will help you process. This is where I am. Where do I go from here? So if you're in the B group, you get a cross, a nail, and a cart, and you get a Begin book. Now we got C, right? C stands for curious. That means I'm not in the A group. That means I'm not ready to say I want to believe. I'm still curious. Still curious about the whole thing. You know, my hope and my prayer for you, because you may not respond. You may not come to the front. But my prayer is that God would turn this curiosity into sincere faith. That you would make it personal. But if you do choose to come, I want you to pick up a nail as well. And I want you to keep it in your pocket as your curiosity is still being stirred. And every time you touch it, I want you to remember, Jesus paid a price for you. Jesus loves you. Jesus is calling out to you. He wants to have a relationship with you. And just like Thomas, who had doubts, that you would turn that doubt, that you would press in enough, that you would turn that doubt and that curiosity into real faith, living faith. And what I ask you is, as these guys sing, let this be a time of worship. You come and you respond, and you can stay here. I'm going to be the first one. Ain't nobody going to beat me down here because I'm closer. I'm going to be the first one because I'm in an A category. I believe. But I just want to tell you, I still have questions and doubts. But I want my faith to grow. And I want it to be stronger. You can hang out up here and pray and worship. You can get what you need and go back to your seat. But when we're done, we're going to pray. And then we're going to have a snowball, okay? Let's worship.
Savior knows
life that the world offers, a fulfilled life, a satisfied life, a content life, the kind of life you were meant to have. Father, I thank you for the reminder today of the great price that was paid. Father, that you are alive. You're real. It's true. It's proven in a personal relationship that I can have with you. That in a moment, your presence can change absolutely everything. Can change my attitude, can change my mind. You can be my provider. You can be my savior. You can be my healer. You be whatever I need you to be in this moment. You're alive. And because of that, I can have real life. Even though I have doubts, even though I have questions, I can press through that and get to know you in a way that you're going to help me recognize doubt, turn to faith, solid faith in the one who can help me overcome, in the one who gives me victory. And when I can't say anything else, when I'm at a point in my life and I can't get anything else out, I can say Jesus. The name of Jesus is my victory. Thank you for those, God, who made decisions today, who said, I step across the line. I believe. And I don't just believe in you, I believe. I've made it personal. And I'm going to take next steps to becoming more and more like you. I'm even thankful, God, today for those who are still curious, because I believe in my heart you're going to turn that curiosity into faith, into surrender. Thank you for forgiving us. Thank you, Father, for your grace. Thank you for new life that we have. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. God bless you. Man, if you need prayer, I invite you to come and we'll pray. Otherwise, head out to the tent, take your card, get a snowball.